So I found that replacing or targeting those specific vitamins, minerals, fish oils, probiotics, all those different things truly do play a vital role in decreasing fatigue, decreasing brain fog, getting the gut back in shape, and truly getting people feeling great. Again, flattening that glucose curve and getting that metabolic health and even hormone health. Like she said, decreasing that cortisol, those sorts of things, truly getting people to feel better. And once they feel better, they want to be more active.
Welcome to Personalized by Vitamin Lab, the show where we dive deep into the world of personalization in healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. David Duizer. Please remember that the following discussion is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Speak with your healthcare practitioner first before integrating anything that you learned today. Join us as we explore the remarkable stories, breakthroughs, and possibilities that come with the pursuit of personalized healthcare. Welcome back to Personalized by Vitamin Lab. I'm your host, Dr. David Duizer, and today I'm excited to introduce Jesse and Matt Naquin. Jesse is a registered nurse with a master's degree in nursing anesthesia. She specialized in pediatric intensive care before working full-time as a CRNA. Matt is a nurse practitioner with a focus on urgent care, primary care, and occupational medicine. Jesse and Matt have completed multiple endurance races in triathlon and Ironman across the world and incorporate that passion into their daily lives as parents and practitioners. Their medical practice is called Untamed Health, where they focus on bringing their wealth of experience to support their patients' wellness and longevity. Please enjoy my conversation with Jesse and Matt Naquin. Welcome back to Personalized by Vitamin Lab. I'm your host, Dr. David Duizer. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I'm here with Jesse and Matt Naquin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
This is my first time having an opportunity to interview people from your professions. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about your professions from each of you. Just a little spiel, please, if you could.
Okay. Well, my name is Jesse Naquin. I have born and raised in Louisiana. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I've been a nurse anesthetist for almost 10 years. Focus has always been pediatrics as a nurse and as a practicing nurse anesthetist, but also super into fitness. Matt and I have been doing endurance races for 8 years, I feel like. And we've done several Ironman races, several different types of triathlons. And so fitness has been a passion. So we've just, in the last few years, tried to implement the fitness into the medical wellness and the longevity of it all. And we've definitely seen the effects of all of it. So we're trying to, while bettering ourselves, trying to help better other people as well.
Love it. Matt, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so I am a nurse practitioner, have been since 2015, nurse since 2010. My practitioner background mainly focused in urgent care, some occupational medicine, some family practice. And just over the years, we've gotten into more fitness and found our passion lies in that natural way of staying healthy and truly just putting it out there to become the best version of who we are today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good mission. Really, really great. I'm coming from a community where nurse practitioners are building awesome practices, but they're integrating themselves into a space where functional medicine is like already all the rage. Everyone's looking for that practitioner who can be the best possible team member. And what they provide is primary care, functional medicine, but longer initial visits. They provide a bit of a more personalized approach. Tell me a bit about your community, how you're integrating your program into your community, what your community might be like.
So I feel like pretty much in our community, we have just a high amounts of comorbidities, high amounts of disease processes that are not accommodated by healthy things. Like we don't have healthy food. Louisiana is known for that good crawfish etouffee that has butter and sauce in it and all the things that are not necessarily great for you. But with that, it comes, a lot of disease process, and it's very easy to throw a Band-Aid on that and say, hey, here's a medicine to just treat that blood pressure, but let's not address why you have high blood pressure, because it's not always just the salt in your food. It could, very well be an underlying thing going on in your gut or in your inflammatory process. And So I think that having a population here that's, I wouldn't say they're so resistant to it, they're just very uneducated on that functional medicine realm, and knowing that there's preventative ways to create a healthy space and not just have to take the medicine and that's your only fix. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. With us both being nurses, we come from more of an educational, a patient education background where, as a nurse, we have been taught to treat patients, but also educate them on exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. So transitioning from that traditional medicine to more of a functional medicine, it's trying to find that balance between truly educating the patient on what we're trying to achieve and the proper way to do such.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I went through a very similar thing. Like I focused on VO2 max for many years and had to teach the whole city about VO2 max. What is it? Why we measure it? How we fix it? What we do? How are you educating the public? How are you getting your name out there? Like you probably know, a lot of practitioners watch our show. We're all looking to get our names out there, and education really, I think, is the best way. What are you doing to get your educational material out there?
Yeah, sure. So we have, obviously, social media is our main platform as far as advertisement and what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. We have started our own podcast, which we're rolling that out currently. We are doing some community.
I know.
Oh, yeah. We are doing some community outreach, just getting out there in the community for different events, whether that be, Cinco de Mayo, whether that be, Pride Month this week, just whatever we can do to get out in the community and try and educate people on who we are and why we are doing what we are doing. And it's more to try and focus on that individualized care and get people to understand that, it's not a cookie cutter world of medicine anymore, that there are specific things that each individual needs to be that healthy version of themselves.
And I also think one thing we're doing in the clinic is offering other services that kind of pull them in so that then we can utilize our, educational background to say, hey, by the way, you're here for this, but also, you should really look into this. We offer this because this is, something that would really benefit you in the long run. Doing a gut biome could maybe give you more answers than just, taking an antibiotic for something. And, so I think that offering different services here at Untamed also helps them come in the door. And then once they're through the door, we're able to, sit down with them and really spend time with them and say, look, we're here to help. And then they're, off, show them services that we can provide for them.
I love the name of your practice, by the way.
Oh, we love it too.
I'm reading a book right now by Tim Grover, who is a trainer for MJ and Kobe. And basically the name of your practice reminds me of that book. It's awesome. The book is called Relentless.
We had a name that was medicine outside of the box. Like, you cannot stop us. We are not regulated by any insurance company, or because, in America, everything is, if it's not insurance approved, you don't get it. And we're not here for that. So we are Untamed.
Totally. I like that. So what's the draw? If I'm like, let's say I'm, your ideal patient. Why am I coming in? First of all, who am I? And why am I coming in?
You are a person wanting to better yourself. I think that would be our most ideal patient, would be someone who says, here, I'm not perfect. I know that my metabolism's a little off. I know I may eat healthy, but not always. I may be into fitness, but not crazy like me. But someone who's really truly wanting to better and increase that, that lifetime, that longevity process that we all talk about and hear about, but coming in and saying, look, what can I do to better myself? And I feel like people come in and they, they've got all these issues and all these problems, and the most basic thing, which is vitamins and minerals, are so off. And that is the basis of metabolism. That is the basis of our body's functionality. And they're, what do you take? Oh, well, I don't do anything. And I've been guilty of this myself. We're in the heat and you're losing all these electrolytes. Well, how are you replacing them? Well, I'm not. Well, that could be a big problem. So just starting with the most basic things in patients, I think, is what's been super fun to help people get on the right path, just on, taking what they need. And even the probiotic, I know that that's kind of controversial, whether you just take a global probiotic, a more specified one, but doing these gut biomes and really like honing in on what they lack and what they have, too much of, and then helping them and seeing that, we have one client who's actually like seeing super good results from just doing her probiotics. So it's
completely.
Awesome,
It's the best feeling.
Yeah,
you do
it
something
is.
that's
It's
like
the best
personalized. Like,
feeling. Yeah.
woo, we did it.
Yeah, it is. It's the best feeling.
It's personalized. It's individual. It's exactly what you needed.
Correct.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, we're like, my wife and I are like heavily dependent on electrolytes right now, and we just did a different workout that we haven't done in a while, and we did. I don't know if you know Brian Johnson, but he's this wild guy online. He's trying to live forever, the don't die guy. So we just did his workout, and there's a lot of slant board squats, and so we haven't done slant board squats like that in a while, and we just like totally maxed it out, and then we ran out of electrolytes. And we're both like crushed, cramping, and just like crying for this, what we thought was something that, we just wasn't personalized. It wasn't individualized. It was just something that we did every day. But now we're like, whoa, okay, we actually really need that. And we got something today and we're feeling a little better.
It's huge. And that's like just the most basic thing we can do for our bodies. But it's just simple things like that people come in the door and they honestly just don't even think about. And so to be able to remind somebody and be like, hey, look, we're here. This isn't even our specialty, but taking those electrolytes, you're going to feel so much better.
Where do you start? What does your initial visit look like? What's your core focus that you kind of participate in the first visit?
Yeah, for sure. So that truly falls on the patient. Why are they coming through the door? Once they come through the door, then we can kind of unroll the proverbial red carpet, shall we? And from there, whether they're here for, it's a 50-year-old woman who's, has an excess 15 pounds that she can't lose, or whether it's, somebody coming through the door with intermittent diarrhea, bloating, constipation. It really kind of depends on why. And once we figure out the why, then we can determine which route to take. Is it going to be more blood test? Is it going to be a biome test? Is it going to be a nutritional test? Again, it's very personalized and it's very individualized. So it's not you come through the door, you get blood work, you go home, I call you with the results, and we put you on over-the-counter probiotic or over-the-counter B complex. It's very specific as to you need these particular vitamins. Shall we do it via intravenous route? Shall we do it PO route? It just, there's so many specifics that have to be taken into consideration.
Yeah. Our biggest complaint with patients are those walking through the door and kind of having that frustration with, I'm older, I'm in my 40s, 50s, I am noticing a lot more bloating, I've noticed weight gain, I don't necessarily want to get on semaglutide or any type of GLP. And so that is us saying, yes, let us help you fix it. And one of our first steps is usually putting a glucose monitor on somebody and kind of figuring out what their body's reacting to. While glucose isn't going to necessarily show you that inflammatory process, it's definitely going to show you what your body likes and dislikes. So what we do is we offer a blinded glucose study. And so we basically put the monitor on them, and for 2 weeks, we have a food diary that they log every meal, and they just basically take a picture. We're not really doing the measurements. We're just saying, okay, what carb content are you getting at this point? What fiber, what insoluble fiber you're doing? Because I know a lot of the big thing right now is like the athletic greens and things like that, which is great and great to get your vitamins and minerals, but also just the importance of the insoluble fiber that goes along with that gut health. So we do those glucose studies, and then they come in, we go through those results, we show them what they are showing good results, what they're not, like what things that hang on to their blood levels. And then from that point, a lot of people are wanting to do those biome studies. And I feel like the biome studies are actually a bigger hit here than anything else because they're seeing what their gut is actually made of. And then we're also doing the nutritional studies. And I think that a lot of being able to get the nutritional studies and the content to say you're deficient here. Like I said, I mean, the deficiencies are the biggest thing for patients. I think if they could understand and treat the deficiencies, they'd actually see a lot more improvement in their metabolic health.
I love it. Yeah, those are like three of the big ones completely. Let's go through the glucose one first because I'm obsessed with it.
Me too. So upset. I am so upset.
It's really fun. It's a good educational opportunity as well. Like it makes a big difference for people, whether they're diabetic or not.
Correct.
What's the lesson? What are we starting with? Let's say you've got someone this is what we're gonna do. 2 weeks. What are the lessons that we're looking for from this? You mentioned fiber already. Can you go through some of the key lessons that you want to pull from the glucose meter? Say you have a practitioner watching, trying to integrate this into their program.
Absolutely. I feel like the biggest thing is getting that food diary from a patient and truly evaluating what keeps those levels up beyond what we want. It is a natural, I tell patients this all the time, it is natural. Our bodies were designed to spike after we eat something, especially a carb content or sugar content. Now, obviously, we don't want the ups and the downs, and that you don't want it on an EKG and you don't want it on a glucose monitor, so you want that more of a steady level because you're going to have a lot less fat absorption. And that fat absorption is going to be where the problem comes in. So I would say from practitioner to practitioner, truly evaluate what they're taking. And then, like when Matt and I did our glucose studies, he could eat one thing and his sugar, his glucose levels would rise. They would come back down within 30 to 50 minutes and he would level out. If I ate oatmeal, my levels were like greater than 140 for 2 hours. Now, just because my A1C was, less than 5.5, and just because my fasting glucose was less than 100, but it was at 98, so that's still kind of borderline. And, from being a relatively thin person my entire life, but having diabetes all throughout my family, having PCOS in my 20s, it definitely played a part. And when I turned 40 and noticed that, like, man, things just seemed off, and I did the blood work, and everybody's like, yeah, you're fine. Like, no big deal. Like, yeah, that you're 40, that you're going to gain weight. And then seeing the glucose study and seeing oatmeal and saying, well, you know what? Even though oatmeal is great, it's high in fiber, it's very high in starch, and my body did not tolerate it. So if you can help your patients figure out the things that your body specifically does and does not tolerate, it moves mountains for them, and it makes you feel better. Because with high glucose, you have fatigue, you have brain fog, you have all the things that don't make you feel well. So on top of just having weight, because a lot of people come in wanting to lose weight, but ultimately it's about feeling better and having your body, all the organs actually work together again, So I feel like that's a big, big take home point for the glucose monitor is just find out because there are going to be things like even coffee can increase the cortisol without cream or without sugar. So if somebody's reacting to caffeine, that's just a cortisol reaction, which increases your glucose levels. So it's finding those, spikes and then evening out that curve. And for Glucose Goddess, I mean, she's who I've read her books. I followed everything. She's fantastic. Her name is Jesse. I cannot pronounce her last name. I will botch it. But she's, a biochemist in Europe, and she has moved mountains with the study of glucose.
I'll have to check it out. Glucose Goddess. Never heard of her. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just because Google says it's healthy, doesn't mean that it's healthy for you.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's the problem with America too. Our FDA,
Absolutely.
They basically can put anything on a label, a nutritional label, and deem it organic and high in protein, but they don't necessarily go into the carb content. So like I'll tell patients, look, if it's more than 5 grams of added sugar, don't do it unless I live by the 80-20 plan. So 80% I'm going to try and do well, and 20% I'm just going to live life and love it. And so if that's my glass of red wine with a bowl of pasta, that's my 20% of life. But other than that, like if I can stay below 5 grams of added sugar, really cutting down on that added sugar in a diet can make a difference too. So
now I realized I can't have my cream in my coffee and my blueberry muffin. It's not possible with my monitor. It's like crushes it, So I switched to bran. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I blame Whole Foods for that, for those. But anyways,
As you should.
my favorite way to teach this is just to have them scan it when they first wake up in the morning, right before meals, 2 hours later, before exercise, after exercise, before bed. Analyze the full graph in the first week, but don't change anything. Just, just have a look. See what's happening. Here's the target. 2 hours after meals, we're back down to baseline. Second week, let's review and let's optimize and go for like absolute perfect. I like blinded too. Blinded would be super fun. I've never even considered that, but I'm going to try it next. So they don't get to see what's happening at all for the 2 weeks, and then you review. Is that how you do the blinded?
So yes, so for 2
That's
weeks,
fun.
so we tell them for 2 weeks we don't want them to do anything.
That's more fun for you though.
Even if you tell somebody not to change their day-to-day, if they have the ability to have that live data with a scan on their arm, they're going to change it.
They're going to change it.
You put it on and you give them 2 weeks of normal life, they have no idea. It's not like I can say, oh, look, I ate this. What's it doing?
Yeah.
They have no idea. They almost forget that it's even on their body. So they come back 2 weeks later with their food diary and it's like, oh, I forgot I ate that. And then you truly get a vivid picture day to day what these foods are doing to your person.
And then we'll tell them, like, they do that first 2 weeks of blinded, and then we'll go in and we'll do the changes, like you were saying, like, okay, let's optimize this, and let's do the fiber first, let's do the protein and your carb, and we'll layer those meals and see what that does. Let's see if you can keep your favorite things, because I am also a believer that you shouldn't have to live this like bland life. Like we live in Louisiana, like I'm going to partake, but there is a way that you can make your body, absorb it and see it. So we use the last 2 weeks to kind of make those changes and then let them see those changes. And I think that's where the motivation comes in. They're like, oh my gosh, wow, like it really flattened my curve. Like, I'm going to definitely do this more often. And I find myself doing that even more. Like I'll fix my plate at lunch at work. We have like a little spread, and I'm always like, okay, let me eat my vegetables first. And, so now it's kind of a habit versus, oh, I have to eat my vegetables first because, I've seen the results and I've seen the way it works. So I'm like, okay, I love this. I want to, feel better. So.
Yeah, that's a great plan. I love that. That's a really cool way of doing it. Tell me a bit more about metabolic health. Like, where's your focus going? We talked about blood sugar a little bit. But what other investigations are you taking seriously on the metabolic health side?
Yeah, for sure. So we do a good bit of nutritional panels as well, saliva, blood, and urine, which we get dramatic amounts of information from. And it's really good. You can test the hormones that way. You can test all of the vitamins and mineral content, and you can truly get a picture of what is going on inside of the body. And then that's where you guys come in, with that personalized, you need X, Y, and Z, something, a product that like you guys provide does a phenomenal job of being able to target all of those deficiencies without sending somebody to Walmart or Amazon and say, okay, you need to pluck 15 different bottles off of the shelf. So I've found that, replacing or targeting those specific vitamins, minerals, fish oils, probiotics, all those different things truly do play a vital role in decreasing fatigue, decreasing brain fog, getting the gut back in shape, and truly getting people feeling great. Again, flattening that glucose curve and getting that metabolic health and even hormone health. Like she said, decreasing that cortisol, those sorts of things, truly getting people to feel better. And once they feel better, they want to be more active.
Well, and even realizing that, like, so as one who has Hashimoto's or was diagnosed a few years ago with Hashimoto's, I've been on, thyroid medicine for a few years, and my daughter was diagnosed with Hashimoto's at 12 years old. And, it's very familial. My mother, my sister, everybody. And realizing that even like endocrine functions and metabolic health down to the thyroid can be affected by taking B vitamins, and your deficiencies in your B vitamins playing a huge part in all of that. And so I feel like that is just a door that we've recently opened, and it's mind blowing because it's like, we have so many people coming in, it's my thyroid. And traditionally, we get older, our organs get a little more tired, and maybe they function a little less and less. However, it's the building blocks. It's like, well, this can't function because it has nowhere to build off of. And so I think that we're exploring a lot of how, the different minerals and vitamins are actually affecting our hormones and our endocrine system. And it's a big deal because traditionally people just say, hey, here's Synthroid or levothyroxine and take it and be on your way, when really you can optimize your conditions with just optimizing your cell health. And so it's been super interesting.
Yeah. And even looking at like the different pathways, the conversion of T3, T4, all of those different things truly, your thyroid may be functioning just fine, but you're not converting that T4. So being able to evaluate those things as well truly aid in getting the best results for each individual person.
Completely. And being able to teach about the food being deficient and like, what do we actually need? We're not getting it from the food. And then also our digestive tracts are just bombarded with environmental pollutants, and they're just less effective than we would like them to be a lot of the times. I mean, I don't do a lot of digestive tests for people who don't have issues, but recently I just did one for someone who's working in prevention of chronic disease, did a leaky gut test, and it came back positive. It's like, what? Oh my goodness, I can't believe this. And so we did a nutrient test and there's deficiencies, but they don't have like a significant set of symptoms, but they could be coming, right?
Absolutely.
Not yet.
That's proactive healthcare.
Yeah, that's beauty. I wish that every annual physical, I would say 30 years old and older, included this, because I feel like this is where it truly begins. We're starting to see the upper 30s, lower 40s coming in with already having the signs and symptoms. But, it doesn't all happen overnight. So I think that if we could truly, target in and say, hey, you're deficient now, let's start fixing that. Maybe you don't have to go through this as to what I've had to go through. So
Vitamin Lab revolutionizes personalized supplements, empowering health practitioners to create tailored supplement formulations that address each patient's unique needs. Bring personalized health to your practice and choose from over 200 professional-grade ingredients to create vitamin formulas that improve patient adherence and result in tangible outcomes. All ingredients are sourced from the world's most trusted suppliers, and Vitamin Lab provides hands-on support to help you formulate and launch personalization to your patients. Say hello to a new era of personalized supplement solutions. Go to getvitaminlab.com/personalized to save $100 off your first formula.
Completely. I mean, part of the reason that it's not ever going to be included is because it's so expensive. It can be so complicated. You need like a really good team member that you trust, which sounds like you guys would be an awesome team member for someone to have. We also need to think about, regardless of all this, who lives the longest? It's the people with the highest VO2 max. You guys are going to live to 100 just because you're endurance athletes. I love that. That's the best.
I don't know. I never could get my VO2 max. So, I mean, there was recently some guy who was it that had 84? Like, that's not even
nice.
Human. It's not even human.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever tried to run the Chikogi treadmill speed?
No.
The top marathoner, his treadmill speed. Oh my gosh, it's insane.
No,
yeah, I can't do it for 5 seconds.
I would just fly off.
Yeah, so fun. So, but in order to train for endurance, we have to feel good. Right, we got to be feeling like, okay, we can actually get out there and we can do it. And I think that's where a lot of this comes in. Like, we're going to help you feel better. Then you can get out there. But you guys have been getting out there for a long time. Tell me about your experience, what it's like being an endurance athlete, because you're athletes. I mean, you're doing Ironmans. This is like full on. Tell me what that journey's been like for you both.
Oh, God.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
I bet.
So it hasn't been easy. Like she said earlier in the podcast, we are practitioners, we are parents, we have 3 kids. So finding the time to train, that's always the hardest part, and fueling our bodies, very, very important. Making sure we're getting the food, the vitamins, the minerals, the hydration, the electrolytes, all of that plays such a vital role, even sleep, which being a parent and a practitioner and an endurance athlete, you definitely miss out on a lot of that, So it's been a very hard journey, but it's been very enlightening. We found out a lot about ourselves, found out a lot about the resilience of our children, our family members who are willing to take care of our kids throughout the 8-hour, 10-hour bike rides and run sessions. It's been a very difficult but amazing journey of becoming a better athlete, a better practitioner, a better parent, just everything from the ground up, truly immersing ourselves into that community of just phenomenal people
who actually not care about their bodies, but truly are trying to reach that ultimate, potential. And I think that when you surround yourself with people who are just there to push themselves and there to reach the limit and say, hey, let me see what I can do, it really does open a world up to you. And I think that's kind of where we decided, man, I really feel like we could do more, be more, and figure out what's the best for, ourselves. And endurance racing, I mean, it's definitely it's a laugh, but it's amazing. But I'll never forget, like, we went to Germany and we raced a race out there that was phenomenal called Challenge Raw. And I'll never forget, like, being on the run. And there was a moment, just like you said, I was running and I was, probably at mile like 12 out of the marathon, and I felt great. And here I am post swim, post 112 miles on a hilly bike, and I'm from Flat, Louisiana, and I am on a run, and I just remember being euphoric and thinking, I feel great, and I'm still going. And I ended up, it was actually on my birthday. It ended up being my fastest marathon, I think, for an Ironman, for, my own personal record. And we led up to that point. I mean, we trained appropriately. We nourished ourselves. We did everything we were supposed to do, because a year prior, I had at mile 84 on the bike almost passed out and had a heat stroke and was in medical for 4 to 6 hours. I don't even remember. Almost admitted to the hospital. It was terrible. So to fast forward a year and feel on a course and endure it, it was amazing, but it took a lot of work and it took a lot of effort, and it was nothing that was easy. And I think it kind of transitions into just preventative health care. It's not easy and it's not going to be quick, but if you do it the right way, you will see the results, and you're going to have that moment where you smile and say, I feel really good,
Well, thanks for sharing that. What a journey that was. Holy, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah. And it was actually, it was funny. It was in Idaho, so not terribly far from you, but it was in Coeur d'Alene, and they had record heat temps. And
oh my gosh.
We were climbing a mountain, and I ran out of water for about an hour, and I crashed into the next tent, and some guy told me, he was like, you really should stay away from the heat. Your body must not tolerate heat very well. And I'm like, Louisiana. I was like, I just don't tolerate dehydration.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, goodness.
What lessons have you gained? I'm thinking about this for my kids. I got 3 kids too, and I'm like reading them this MJ book, of course, right? Like, what else can you do? But like to try to find this discipline, this struggle, this overcoming something. What have you guys learned from being endurance athletes, and what are you sharing with your kids?
Oh gosh.
Well, a lot of it is mental. So much of endurance racing is mental and
life.
And life, absolutely, for sure. Even, medical practice, it all boils down to when you think you can't go anymore, you still can go. Every step forward is a step in a positive direction, one step closer to that finish line. And, when you think you don't have anything left, when you're in your deepest, darkest thoughts, why am I doing this? This is the worst idea ever. I never want to do this again. When you cross that finish line, it's like, well, wasn't that bad. We'll do it again next week.
Or so you immediately forget.
Absolutely.
So it was. I've never crossed the finish line and said it wasn't that bad. Let's just clarify. But I remember the first finish line we crossed. I just was a bucket of emotion and was crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we did it. And then our second race, our kids were there at the finish line. And the way Ironman races are done, there's a chute. So you run up a chute, and they were at the beginning of the chute, and I saw them, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like, this is what this whole year of training and this whole year of suffering culminated to. Because let's be clear, the Ironman is not the hard part. That is actually the easy part. You have a day all to yourself to figure it out. You have 17 hours to complete the mission. It is the year that you took of coming home from work, eating dinner on the, bike trainer, and missing the time with your kids, missing the time with your friends or family. That's the hard part. So to have our kids witness us throughout the day doing something that was hard, I feel like transitions, and I do think that our kids are very tough in a sense that they know that they can do hard things. And, I was never like a straight A student. I was never that person who things came easy to educationally. But I was always passionate, and I always loved learning about it. I just couldn't test well. Like, you give me a standardized test, I can't do well on it. But if you give me a process to learn and talk about, I will go all day with you. And, our kids are the same. And I tell them, I'm like, look, don't let numbers define you. Don't let scores define you. You become who you become by the grit and determination. And these races have definitely proved that, I feel like, for us, but as well for them. So it's definitely been a journey. That is for sure.
Oh, completely. Well, you're great examples for them. That's really cool. Can we integrate some of the training principles that you've had for your endurance into the discussion around personalized patient care? I'm sure that you're recommending exercise therapy and thinking about strength and endurance and anaerobic capacity. What type of principles are you applying? How are you encouraging people to accomplish the programs that you have? What's exercise therapy look like on your metabolic side?
I would say strength. I think one thing that we have learned even in the endurance racing is that excess cortisol that you get with these endurance racing. And I think that's kind of where, not I fell off, but where my body didn't respond well. And, doing the DNA testing and seeing that I was more of a fast twitch utilizer versus that slow twitch. So I was doing a lot of that endurance type exercise, but not necessarily the high intensity or the strength training that I needed to be doing. And I genuinely feel like the weights and the strength training is very underrated, because I think so many people just assume, oh, I'm gonna be a muscle, I don't want to be this beefed up bodybuilder. But really, the muscle is just everything that's protecting our body. It protects our organs, it protects everything. And our heart is one big muscle. And so I think that having these patients come in and, whether they're, having issues with weight or not, really building up your muscle and doing that at least 3 to 4 times a week, which is hard for a lot of people because that's, time. But I think that is a big deal. And then really getting those high intensity workouts to get your VO2 max up, because, getting that good anaerobic workout is where you're going to get that, with aerobic workouts where you're getting on a bike, but you're not necessarily pushing it past the zone 2. You're not really pushing your body into its limits to say, okay, well, here I can really grow as far as a fitness capacity. And so I think that I would say high intensity and strength has been our bigger push than even endurance, although we are Ironman racers. I think that if you really, we're just Ironman racers, we're crazy. I can say that for all people. That is not the healthy road. That comes with a lot of cortisol. For sure.
Totally. And this is, you've given such a perfect response for my practice. Like we test a lot of Ironman athletes here, test their VO2 max and their limitations. And so commonly their limitations are strength and anaerobic capacity because they've been running endurance so much. And so integrating that in and highlighting the importance of this is like everything. But with your background with glucose studies and you've seen, the live data, people with more muscle, better control, I totally get it. Then we have the CrossFitters come in and their aerobic capacity needs work, limited usually. And when they build that up, they perform better in CrossFit. So it's really funny about that.
Yeah. it's like everybody needs to cross like a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Completely hybrid exercise. I mean, that's what you're doing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what you're doing. I love that. We talked about one other component, one other kind of principle that you both are focused on that's a big part of your practice, and that's gut health. And we talked a little bit about microbiome assessments, and I'd love to hear about your experiences with these assessments and your protocol development and what that might look like. How do you personalize your programs for gut health?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so a lot of that really depends on, once we get our results back, it's seeing, what the normal flora is doing versus everything else. And everybody's like good bacteria versus bad bacteria. And I don't necessarily like those terms because it's not a bad bacteria, it's just an overgrowth bacteria or an undergrowth of a bacteria. So it's one of those things where everything truly needs to be in balance and everything truly needs to work together to achieve that gut that's firing on all cylinders. So, once we get the results, it's going to look at what is overgrowth, what is not. And I always try to use more of an antimicrobial versus an antibiotic when possible to try and more or less naturally decrease the overgrowth and then come back with those probiotics of those undergrowth bacteria to try and balance everything. And then from there, what we try to achieve is, again, make sure vitamins and nutrients are where they need to be because, regardless of what your gut's doing, if you're not putting the right stuff in your body, you're never going to achieve the results that you want. You're never going to truly feel great. So it's one of those things where try to get rid of the overgrowth, try and rebalance and regrow the normal stuff to normal levels. And then from there, truly try and see, are we getting better glucose control? Are we feeling better? Are we, is the bloating gone? Is the intermittent constipation, diarrhea? How are we doing there? So that's really kind of the route that I like to take and kind of.
And we've had, to bring up just kind of like case studies, we've had a patient come in who did biome testing. History is, young 40s and healthy otherwise, like no real like comorbidities, as, diagnosed comorbidities. And some of the bacteria in that biome were very specific to colorectal cancer. And, here you have a young 40-year-old male who has bouts of IBS symptoms, but relates it to diet. And there were oral bacteria that were associated with high sugar intake, which it was a wine consumer, other bacteria. And those things, you're looking at a young 40-year-old who, he may or may not go get a colonoscopy now or later. And so that's where you integrate the functional medicine with the traditional medicine to say, hey, look, you've got a high risk for this. And it was a patient who was highly encouraged to go, to a GI doc so that they can get that truly investigated because, while we're doing preventative health, this also can help like point out, diseases and cancers and things like that because it all begins in the gut. So it's been very interesting to get these biome results from patients and seeing the bacteria. There's a lot of bacteria that are associated with Parkinson's disease. And so you can get those bacterial colonies decreased and get an overgrowth of the better ones that can kind of take over those colonies. And then you'll see that, you're actually doing well. You go to Akkermansia. That's the big talk right now is Akkermansia. And it's a very difficult bacteria to colonize, and they're finding that even a lot of Americans don't even, have 5%, which is, not even enough. And Akkermansia is what produces our GLP. It secretes that hormone, and we all know the GLP is in Ozempic and Wegovy. And so naturally, you just may not even be colonizing the bacteria that's responsible for secreting it. And that could be where your insulin resistance is coming from. And so if you're not testing your gut to know that you are lacking these, and, I say Akkermansia, it actually takes a few bacteria together to secrete that hormone. So if you're not populating those, then your baseline is, deficient. And so there's a lot of answers that we can get out of just getting one, gut biome. And again, it's one of those things where they come in, let's fix it. Let's, fix a few things, but in 6 months we need to check it again. But then there's the cost factor. So a lot of people don't want to reevaluate. And, in America, our insurances are not covering these tests. So it's, it's one of those things where it's super beneficial, but it's convincing the patients that this is truly going to help you in the long run.
Completely. Tell me a little bit about the nutrition principles that you may apply. Say you get a dysbiosis occurring. What type of nutrition considerations are you making, and are you providing plans, and what might they look like?
So I feel like with nutrition, the biggest thing is going to be, and again, I think I touched on this a little earlier, but the insoluble fiber. I feel like the gut is so poorly managed in forms of diet. And so say they come in with a poor biome, but yet you can we can say, hey, here's this bacteria that you could intake and that's going to help you. But if you're not feeding your biome and you're not feeding these bacteria, then there's really no use in even taking a probiotic, if I'm being honest, because if you can't feed something, it's not going to grow. And so I think that truly targeting a good nutritional background and saying, look, these are the things that you need. It's somebody who doesn't like vegetables or fruits, then it's a problem, because that's essentially what our bacteria feed off of. So you really have to kind of go into, okay, what do you eat? What can you eat, so that we can truly feed your biome and help it grow? Because we can tell you to take these things all day long, but if you're not actually helping your own body, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. So I think that really the biggest thing right now is fiber intake. I think that if we can, no matter what you're eating or drinking, I think if you are truly getting, and I mean, I feel like I read or watched that documentary on Netflix, which was really good. I do feel like it kind of went along with the gut health, the hack your gut or hack your health. But they were saying that we need, 30 grams of fiber, and most people are only ingesting about 5, which is crazy. So that just goes to show you that we're not, even if you have the bacteria, it may not even be able to grow because we're not giving it the fiber that it needs, the food.
No, nutrition is so important.
It really is.
And the massive amount of preservatives that you find in store-bought foods these days. So always try and educate on fresh is best.
Yes.
100%, whether it's fruits or vegetables, spending an extra couple bucks on the chicken in the store that says it wasn't raised with antibiotics or it was free range. Like those sorts of things are just so important. And, the elevated cancer risks, there's so many just terrible things that you see from all of the preservatives. And, just what can we do in the grocery store to make money regardless of what it's doing to these to individual health. So focusing more on not only putting in the fiber and putting the good things in your body, but making sure it's, like she said, not full of sugar, not full of preservatives, and not full of those things that sit on the shelves for months and months and months and stay good because they're not good for you.
Which is really hard, because now with a fast-paced life, it's so hard for people. They want the packages.
It can be so difficult to communicate too. I'm a little nervous. I got to review an environmental pollutants panel in a few hours, and the pollutants they're from the food. It's on the food. It's absolutely wild, and I have to be the one to communicate that. That we have to make some significant changes. Like we have to actually change the habits. We have to change the lifestyle in such a major way. These patterns are ingrained since we were super young. Like what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, what does the plate look like. It's difficult to make those changes.
And culture, from where we come from, culture plays such a massive role in exactly what you're saying. It's, oh, well, my mama did this and my mama's mama did this, my grandma, everybody's been doing it. So it's got to be the way to do it, and not exactly the way things should work.
We were just in Europe last week, and we went to a market within Versailles, and it was so amazing because everything was so fresh. And the fruit, I mean, I'm not even a fruit eater because I think it's too bitter, And it was just so sweet. And our kids were just amazed. They were like, this is the best food we've ever had. And, they're like over there slicing the, French salami. I mean, everything was so fresh and you could taste the difference. And at that point I said, well, we have to move now.
Definitely. Okay, bye. Clinic closed.
That's it.
For sure. For sure. Oh gosh. Well, but it's a good story to take to your practice.
Yeah.
Take to the patients. Like a lot of Europeans live in Vancouver and they just can't believe how terrible the food is compared to what they grew up with. So we're having to help them find good sources of food, and it's not easy in these cities that we live in.
It's just not. It's not. But it is going to be my motivator.
Completely. Cool. One thing we try to do on this show each time is find out something unique about each of you. In the spirit of personalization, can you tell our listeners something about yourself that most people don't know?
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, putting us on the spot.
Yes.
You first.
Okay. I would think, well, if you know me, you would think or assume that I am loud and very boisterous because that's what he says. But I am actually not, and I don't like meeting strangers. Like, I am very shy when it comes to a new group of people. Like, if I know you, I will talk your head off. But if I don't know you, I'm going to sit in a corner until you reach out to me. So I feel like that is a limitation for me because going, in this new world of functional medicine, hopefully we're going to go meet a lot of people. So I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone. And although he thinks I could talk to a brick wall, I am very excellent.
Got it. Thank you for that. All right, Matt, you're up.
And I guess for me, something that I truly try to implement into every single patient encounter, every visit, whether it's in person or via telemedicine, it's just to be real with people. There's no reason to sugarcoat anything. You can say it in a nice way, but these are the facts, and this is what we need to do in order to improve your health. And it may not be something you want to hear. It may not come off nice, but at the end of the day, I'm here to help you, and I'm here to motivate you to be a better person, a better individual, and better your lifestyle. Make those lifestyle changes and push you, again, to be the best version of yourself at the end of the day. And I can sometimes be a bit blunt, which may not always be best, but...
And he's sometimes a bit of a clown. I feel like you're the class clown.
I do. I always try to add a little humor into every situation, whether it's funny or not. But that's how I communicate. And I think it works for some and it may not work so much for others.
Spoken like a true athlete, Matt. You really did it there. You really brought it all out. I love it. No, I'm into it. Well, listen, Jesse, Matt, it's been awesome to meet both of you. I wish you the best of luck in your clinical practice. Where can our listeners learn more about you?
Yeah, so we are just starting our new podcast. It's called The Untamed Mind. So you can find us on the Apple Store. I think we're only one episode in, but fret not, we have a lot more to come with some really good content. And then you can find us on our website, untamed.health. And that kind of goes into who we are, what we offer. And then obviously you can always reach out to us. I'm Jesse, Jesse at untamed.health via email. And he is Matt, M-A-T-T at untamed.health. We would love to hear from any practitioners, any pieces of advice, if it's, that, or if it's questions, we're here for it, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing. It was so nice to meet both of you, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
No problem. Talk soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's discussion. What about today's podcast resonated with you? Be sure to tag at Dr. David Duizer and at Get Vitamin Lab. If you're learning from and enjoying this podcast, please let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And don't forget to leave us a review. It's the best way to support our podcast, and it helps others find us. To learn more or book a demo to explore what personalization could do for your practice, please go to www.getvitaminlab.com/personalized.